This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Welcome in. Recap Sunday 1 of the NFL season. Mike Tirico, Tony Dungy, Mike Florio, and Rodney Harrison. We'll throw out some topics here and get everybody's thoughts on what we saw as we got to watch the first 13-game Sunday of the NFL season. Let's start with Cleveland. Cleveland had so much attention that they brought upon themselves going into the season. Then they lose by 30 to the Tennessee Titans, 43-13. Tony, I'll start with you. Your reaction to the Browns' loss?
Well, I am surprised, number one. I saw them practice. I thought their offense was super sharp against Indianapolis in the scrimmage. I thought they would play a lot better. But what they have right now is a lot of great pieces to the puzzle, but that doesn't mean it's a pretty picture when it's finished. They've got to build that chemistry. I want to see how they respond to a little adversity.
Yeah, and I saw in Baker Mayfield that guy who can have a great game or he can have a really bad game. And once you start to fall behind and it all starts to disintegrate, you have those chances that he takes, those risks that maybe he wouldn't try to assume when things are going well, and it all just falls apart. And the next thing you know, it's a 30-point blowout.
Mike, I think it was a really good thing that it happened because it kind of brings the Cleveland Browns back down to earth. You think about it, all the Super Bowl talk, they talk about how talented they are as a group, but if you're trying to put together all those different pieces, the most important thing is chemistry and trust. And like you, Coach, I'm looking to see how they respond.
There's some bad signs, though. The number of penalties, way too many. Undisciplined play. So those things start to materialize. And then the fourth quarter, Mayfield started getting hit a lot. Looked like he got banged up a little bit. Those are some trouble signs that aren't just one bad day.
And they have to get back to running a football. It can't be just all Baker Mayfield because you got all these weapons in the passing game.
I always wonder when things like this happen, what Coach Tony Dungy would say in that locker room and do to get these guys to forget about what happened at home and refocus for a Monday night game where they can end up 0-2.
Well, you have to move forward. You have to think about the fundamentals and what's really important. They haven't played together a lot. Again, you know, Beckham didn't play much in the preseason. You know, everybody thinks we've just got all these great pieces, so we're going to be a good team. You have to play together.
For me, if I'm a guy in that locker room, I would like to watch that film, and I want you to be transparent. I want you to tell it like it is and let us know exactly what we have to do in order to get better.
But Mike Florio asked the great question because the guy who has to do that, it's his first time. This was the first game for Freddie Kitchens as a head coach. He wasn't even a coordinator this time last year. He was a position coach. So now you've been thrust in that role, and now you've got to figure out how to pick up the pieces very fast. After a 30-point loss like Brian Flores in Miami, they get crushed by 49 points. And now you've got to go back in front of the team for the first time after a loss and say, guys, we're okay. But you really inside can't feel like I know we're okay.
I've been there. My first game, we lost to the Green Bay Packers 35-3. We couldn't make a first down. We couldn't stop them. They pulled off the dogs. Otherwise, it'd have been 60-3. And my message was, you know what? We've got to go back to square one. Fundamental football. That's what's going to win for us.
And as a leader in that locker room, too, Coach, I love sometimes situations like this because you get a chance to really sit back and see who's with you, who's going to continue to come in early, or who's just a front runner.
Exactly.
And Florio, you hit it because they have the Jets on Monday night next week, then the Rams on Sunday night at home. So they've got two big stages. If they don't figure it out, it'll be a long season again. And what else is new in Cleveland? Who has question two?
I got
here?
question number two.
Go.
Initial impressions of Cardinals rookie quarterback and first overall pick in the draft, Kyler Murray.
And I'll tell you what, I was impressed with the way he fought back. Nothing was going right in the first half. You think, boy, this could be a blowout, your first game. And he just kept fighting, kept working, and started to get the ball to his big play receivers. He didn't panic, and that's what I was impressed with.
He's a rookie. He's a young quarterback. And, you know, guys in that locker room are going to look at him and see how he responds. And to me, you watch him, the body language, his movements. He was positive. He was talking to guys on the sideline. That's very important, Mike.
It wasn't stuff we hadn't seen before. It was not revolutionary offense, college offense brought to the NFL. Only 58 yards in the first half. They didn't show much. But those plays he made down the stretch in the fourth quarter, the passes to Larry Fitzgerald, a couple of them, key passes in perfect spots. And you could just see there's an energy about him, which is what everybody who I know who covered him in college had to say about him. You showed that on the sidelines a little bit. That's got to be great energy. Even though they don't come back and win the game, they get a tie. That's got to be a great boost.
Confidence boost.
When Kingsbury goes back in the Cardinals facility on Monday, talk about rookie coaches getting back in front of their guys, to come back at home when you were down and pretty much done, It's going to be a big boost for them.
Well, and Kingsbury said after the game that those first 3 quarters were some of the worst 3 offensive play-calling quarters he'd ever seen, and he took that responsibility. So as he learns and puts Kyler Murray and the offense in a better situation, then maybe they won't fall so far behind and have to dig it all out in the fourth quarter.
Right. Next question, Coach.
All right. Is it me? Okay, I'll take this one. Are you surprised at how badly the Chiefs beat the Jags, even with Tyreek Hill going out so early?
Not really. They have so many weapons across the board. That offense is just a working machine. They put up a lot of points, but my fear is if their offense has one slow day or one bad day, is their defense good enough? And I don't know if their defense is good enough to sustain.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised at how well the Jaguars played when Gardner Minshew, the first member of the 2019 rookie quarterback class to actually take a snap in a game, got onto the field after Nick Foles suffered the broken collarbone. But they just can't. You can't keep up with the Chiefs. You're going to have to outscore them. You're not going to hold them down. And the Chiefs just kept pulling farther and farther away. Yeah,
I didn't see anything different from that Chiefs defense. That's what I wanted to see. You know, Nick Foles' first touchdown pass, he gets him going, he gets hurt, and then Minshew, it took him about 30 minutes to throw an incomplete pass. It's just, everything was right on the money. But Kansas City, offensively, Andy Reid has so much weaponry. They do so many things. They're going to score a lot of points.
And Sammy Watkins, he had 3 touchdowns all of last year. He had 3 in the game. You mentioned Tyreek Hill getting hurt. He'll be out at least a few weeks, not need surgery with his injury. But what Kansas City now brings to the table is the reality that you may have watched this all year on film. Nobody, at least for now, has caught up with what they're doing, which means they've got some pretty special people. And it's Mahomes. Again, the energy, the leadership, the step forward. I was watching some of the clips of the guys getting fired up behind the scenes before they come out. Mahomes is the leader of that team. No matter how many veterans or other guys, it is Patrick Mahomes' team, and they feed off of him, and he carries it on the field, Tony and Rodney.
The thing that I like about the Chiefs offensively is you have so many guys making plays, but you see guys celebrating. You don't see guys mad because they only had 2 catches. Like every time something happens to whatever guy that makes a play, everyone's gathering around him celebrating. I think that's huge.
Yeah, they were really excited for Sammy Watkins, you know, and Patrick talked about it afterwards. Well, he's into the offense. He knows it better now. We can do more things with him. And
he's healthy,
they were excited for him.
His foot's not bothering.
Mecole Hardman, the name to remember, because he's going to get the opportunities with Hill out, and he could have an impact as well.
And before we knew if Hill was going to be playing this year, they drafted Hardman with that example in mind. And I saw him play at Georgia when they played at Notre Dame, and then saw him play last year in the SEC. He's got that little game-changing, shifty ability. You can never say he's going to be Tyreek Hill until you see him on the field. But that's why they got him.
And let's give Andy Reid some credit. Patrick Mahomes is great, but Andy Reid is calling good games, putting people in the right spots, doing a lot of creative things, getting the ball to different people. It's not a stagnant offense at all.
You have the next question there, Mr. Harrison.
Okay. Coach, or I'm going to hit you, Mike.
All right. Oh,
do you believe that
times over the years.
Do you believe that the Cowboys' offensive outburst today is sustainable?
Oh, I think it absolutely is. When you look at what Dak Prescott is in the process of becoming, and I saw it in the playoffs last year, guys, when the Rams bottled up Ezekiel Elliott in the divisional round, he had 43 yards on 21 carries. Dak Prescott still had a good game. And the narrative used to be Dak Prescott can't do anything unless Ezekiel Elliott is rushing for 90, 100, 120 yards. But Prescott has shown that he can get it done. And today, Elliott wasn't great. He just came back this week. But Prescott has 400 yards passing. And that offense,
4 touchdowns, and you truly believe that's sustainable for Dak Prescott?
I think it's sustainable. I think that we are seeing this guy develop into a great quarterback, and we started to see it last year, and it's carried over.
I think it is sustainable because of the way this team is put together. Number one, you've got a great offensive line, and now everybody is coming in saying we've got to stop Ezekiel Elliott. We can't let him run the ball and dominate. So you get very basic coverages. You get a lot of people up there to stack the run. And now what does he have? He's got Amari Cooper, who can beat one-on-one coverage on the outside. He's got a good tight end that's hard to handle, and those other receivers are doing some things. But when you give him vanilla coverages because you're worried about the run, that's how they functioned his rookie year.
And you mentioned those other receivers. I'll be fascinated when there's 2-3 weeks of tape to watch the Cowboys when what you guys in the football world call 11 personnel, 1 back, Elliott, 1 tight end, Jason Witten, 3 wide receivers. How are teams playing against that personnel group? Because, like you were talking about, when that box is empty and you turn around to Zeke with that offensive line, what are you going to pick to stop? It's going to be really hard. They've got answers, it seems, all the way across the board.
The thing that I really like to see was Michael Gallup.
Yes.
Really step up and play well, like big plays, catching some, key third downs. That's what you need. Not just Jason Witten, not just Amari Cooper, but even Blake Jarwin.
But if you're Gallup, aren't you excited to every time you go with that? I know I'm going to get single coverage. There's never going to be double coverage, or there's never going to be a safety because they're either helping on Elliott in the box or they're doubling Cooper. I should have a great year.
What do we always talk about when we talk with the Dallas triplets of their heyday with the championships in the Jimmy Johnson era? Alvin Harper on the opposite side of Michael Irvin made such a difference, right? So these guys are going to get that. I want to ask you guys this question about Dallas. Mike, I'll start with you, because we saw Chicago. There was talk as we all walked around Chicago last week. The Bears 12-4. They've got a kicker now. They can be a Super Bowl team, right? The Rams and the Saints played for the NFC opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. The Eagles, if healthy, have everything to do. Those four teams get mentioned the most. Is Dallas in the conversation with them?
Well, I think they're on the fringe of it, and they can play their way into that conversation.
What don't they have?
Well, I think they have to show that when they are expected to be great, they can step up and be great. They can avoid the little pitfalls that can drag other teams down. It seems like when the bar is low for them, that's when they have their good year. And then when the bar is high, that's when they just don't make it happen. But with Prescott, he was drafted in the 4th round in 2016. He started every single game of his career. Same year as Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. They haven't started 49 regular season games. Prescott has. And we talk about how the game slows down with reps and more opportunities. And I just think we are seeing him come into a zone that is capable of thrusting them into the conversation.
Could we please give one guy some credit? Offense coordinator Kellen Moore.
Absolutely.
Because what did we always say the last couple years about Jason Garrett? That he was very predictable. This offense today was not predictable. Screens, inside runs, throwing the ball to Michael Gallup, just spreading the ball around. I like this young man.
And Mike asked if they were on the level with those other 4 NFC teams. The one thing I need to see is that defense. They play very well ahead. When their offense plays like they did today, that defense is going to be effective. But when the offense can't generate, when they've only scored 10, 13, is that defense good enough to hold them in? That's what I have to see.
You guys mentioned Kellen Moore, a former Boise State quarterback, who looks young enough and candidly is young enough to be a backup quarterback. So we got a list today that our great JK, or our research team, James Kaminsky, prepared for us of the backup quarterbacks in the league. And he pointed out Gardner Minshew as the test in the room. Does anybody know who the backup is in Jacksonville? Tony, when I showed you this list of the backup quarterbacks, what did you say?
I said, I looked down there and I said, man, if I was 40 years younger, I would be making a nice living because I would be somebody's backup quarterback. Now, I know in my prime I was better than
Wait, Coach. So you mean
I was a defensive back.
Hold on. So you mean to tell me if you will play at 40 years old?
No,
40 years ago.
40 years ago. If I was
that's what I'm saying.
If I was 24 years old.
He's saying you're
all right. So that leads us to the speed round questions.
Okay.
So we got it. One sentence. I'm defending Coach here.
That hurts.
And I'll take him. All right. The Jaguars are going to need to find another quarterback with Nick Foles out. Or did you see enough from Minshew to think he could be the quarterback?
You know what? I like him. He came in. He gave him a spark. He wasn't afraid to throw the ball down the field. And he looked like he had some presence on the field.
I saw him play at Washington State, and he is a good young quarterback. I like him, but they need to find someone else now with Foles being out, because what happens if something happens to Gardner?
And we need to know how long Foles is out. It's indefinite for now. I'm sure that someone has an idea, and we've seen these collarbone injuries last potentially a long time deep into the season. And look, I'm not saying it.
Say it.
There's already people saying that they should trade for Eli Manning. Trade for Eli Manning and open the door for Daniel Jones in New York.
I thought you were going to say Kaepernick, but Eli Manning and the conflict connection.
Bring Andrew Luck out of retirement.
Question 2, with the addition of Deshaun Jackson, Mike Florio, do the Eagles have offensive weaknesses at all?
Well, I don't know about the running game. I'm a big fan of having one guy that you lean on. And I know that it's been in vogue the last 15 years to have 2 or 3 guys, but I want that one guy. I want to find that guy who in the 4th quarter is inflicting punishment on the opposing defense to the point where they just don't want to play anymore. And I think to be a truly great team, and I'm thinking the Patriots never have that,
right.
but I still think that they need somebody that you look to in their running game and say he's our guy, and I think that needs to develop over time, whether it's Jordan Howard or somebody else.
In Philadelphia, in December and January, you're going to have to run the football to win in the playoffs. And can they do it well enough? I know they're going to lean on Carson Wentz. They're going to lean on that great passing game. But you're going to play some playoff games where you have to run it.
I look at Jordan Howard, and even in Chicago, they didn't utilize him last year like they should have. In Philly, you trade for him, and you still don't run him. Like, I think his confidence is low, and I think he needs someone to believe in him. Once you give him opportunity, he's going to play well for you.
All right,
let me add one thing, too.
Sure.
I talked to Carson Wentz today, and I asked him where that balance is between keeping yourself healthy and doing everything you can to gain every last yard. And it's still a work in progress. And he's ultimately going to trust his instinct. And he's going to put himself in some potentially bad spots. And if he gets hurt again in December, it's not Nick Foles, it's Josh McCown. So that's kind of a weakness to the extent that he's yet to find the sweet spot where he knows how to keep himself healthy.
He's so competitive. He's going to try to make every play.
All right, speed round. Last couple of questions. Lamar Jackson, 17 of 20, 324, 5 touchdowns. Did he make you a believer today?
No.
Not yet, no.
Not
because that was not that defense was just to stop the run. They basically dared him to throw and made it easy for him.
I think it shocked all of us how aggressive they were down the field, taking shots. Once he faces a real defense, I don't think it's going to be like that.
Well, I feel like what the Ravens are going to do this year, Coach, it's almost like a 16-game rope-a-dope where they're going to try to get you to expect the run, and then they're going to pass. And then they're going to get you to expect the pass, and then they're going to run. I think every game plan is going to be unique, and there's going to be a lot of trying to set you up to think that they're doing something other than what they ultimately do.
I will say this, though. They're making it easy for Lamar because in order to play them, there's so much RPO. You can't play zone coverage against them. You're worried about him running, so there's not a lot of coverages that he's going to have to read and face. He's going to just, if they can continue to beat man-to-man coverage, he'll have a good year.
I bet they feel pretty good, though, about their division. After one game, Cleveland got destroyed by 30. Pittsburgh blown out by New England through those first 3 quarters. Cincinnati did play well out at Seattle. They had a great chance to win that game, but they got to feel good. Most disappointing performance other than Cleveland?
For me, it's Atlanta Falcons. You pay a lot of those guys on the Falcons offensively, a bunch of garbage yards and points in garbage time, but defensively, very disappointed. Dan Quinn took over the defense. They weren't physical, only sacked the quarterback one time, no pressure with Beasley. I'm not really high on the Falcons, and struggle on the cornerback position.
I'm going to stay in the division. I thought the Carolina Panthers would beat the Rams with a healthy Cam Newton. They're a tough team to beat at home. Too many mistakes. And now, they kept it close, but I thought they'd win that game. And this Panthers team, I think that they are capable of being very good, but I thought they would take this one.
I was going to cheat and go back to Thursday night in Chicago on offense, but I'm going to say I'll stick with Sunday and say the New York Jets at home with a 2-score lead and don't finish the game off.
I'm going to give you the Jets and the Lions. Same thing, both in a position to win. Teams that have historically found unique and spectacular ways to blow leads did it again. Lastly, AB in New England, boom or bust?
I think it's going to be boom first, and eventually it's going to bust. He's going to come in. He's going to get with the program. Everybody's going to welcome him. He's going to do the right things. He'll have a couple of big games, and then something is going to set him off.
Think about this, Mike. Week to week, there's always a different game plan. And, and I talked in our pregame show about sacrificing, whether it's financial, whether it's your stats. Just think after 4 or 5 games, if he only has, say, 20 catches and some other wide receiver has 40 catches, and he's going into a contract year, will he be happy? Will he explode? Will he throw water coolers on the side? And that's, to me, I don't trust the guy because I know.
Who's ever done that in New England, though? Who's ever done that?
I'm going to ask Rodney a question.
Right?
People don't, it's hard to change overnight. If you're not used to being on time, if you're used to skipping practices when you feel like it, if you're used to skipping meetings, tell me what's going to happen in New England the first couple of times that happens.
He's going to get fined, and probably the second time they're going to release him.
Yeah, and I think about occasions where guys were late because it snowed 25 inches, right? And Bill Belichick sends them home.
He doesn't care.
Go home, right? Yep. You can't get here on time. It doesn't matter what's going on outside. If you can't get here on time, go home. And I think if Bill Belichick can hold this together with Antonio Brown all season long, they should give him a separate little room in the Hall of Fame just for him. Because it's going to take everything he can do to keep – because I just don't know that Brown is capable of understanding what's expected of him and complying with it.
Antonio Brown is 31 years old. If he finished the season with 70 catches and 1,100 yards and the Patriots are 14-2 heading with home field advantage, he's not going to be happy about that because he's looking at his contract. And the first thing they say, and we had a conversation about this, once you turn 30, your numbers start to slip and you no longer get 112 catches. That's going to be a problem, Mike.
He did orchestrate his departure, at least it feels that way out of Oakland. It said, and Al Michaels said that the indication was this is where he wanted to be all along as soon as Pittsburgh said he wasn't going to be there anymore. Well, he got there. And by the way, the poor Patriots offense, after watching them Sunday night, they really need one of the top receivers.
Well,
in the
and
game.
look at the Steelers offense without AB. Maybe he did have more to do with what they did.
We have more to do next week. We'll see you next week and do this all again. Sunday number 2. We had so much to talk about Sunday number 1.
That was only 1 week?
It was only 1. There'll be more.
Let's go, baby.
See you then. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.